Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that will change the way you approach relationships, self-worth, and the love you attract into your life. Too often we chase, we overgive, we pour ourselves into people who don't match our effort, hoping they will see our value. But the truth is, people don't appreciate what they don't have to work for. They don't treasure what's always available. And that's where the power of disappearing comes in. I'm not talking about playing childish games. I'm talking about the power of walking away when you are not valued. The power of removing your presence when you are taken for granted. The power of stepping back so that the right person can step forward. When you disappear, when you shift your energy from chasing to choosing, from waiting to walking, everything changes. People don't appreciate what's always available. This is a truth that applies to every aspect of life, but it becomes especially clear in relationships. When something or someone is constantly accessible, it's easy to take them for granted. The human mind is wired to value what seems rare, challenging, or slightly out of reach. This is why luxury brands thrive on exclusivity and why people chase things that seem unattainable. The same principle applies in relationships. When you are always present, always giving, always available, the person on the receiving end may not even realize the depth of your worth. Think about it. When you first meet someone new, there's excitement, curiosity, and a bit of mystery. But the moment you start centering your world around them, responding instantly to every message, adjusting your plans for them, and constantly proving your value, the excitement begins to fade. Not because you're not amazing, but because there's no space for them to wonder about you, to miss you, or to feel the weight of your absence. When something is always within reach, it's easy to assume it will always be there. And that's exactly why disappearing, pulling back, and creating space can be one of the most powerful moves you make. This is not about playing mind games or being manipulative. It's about recognizing your own worth and understanding human psychology. When you disappear, when you remove yourself from a situation where you are not being fully valued, you give the other person the chance to feel the reality of life without you. Sometimes people only realize what they had when it's no longer readily available. They start to notice the silence where your voice used to be, the absence of your energy, and the lack of the warmth you brought to their life. And that realization can be powerful. But here's the important part. Disappearing isn't about making someone else chase you. It's about shifting your focus back onto yourself. Instead of pouring all your energy into another person, you redirect it into your own growth, happiness, and fulfillment. You stop waiting for texts, calls, or validation, and you start creating a life that excites you with or without them. This shift is magnetic. Confidence, self-sufficiency, and independence are attractive qualities. When you no longer need someone to validate your worth, you naturally become more desirable. Disappearing is also a test. It reveals who truly values you and who is only around because of convenience. If someone genuinely cares, your absence will be felt deeply, and they will make the effort to keep you in their life. If they don't, then you have your answer. It was never meant for you. Either way, you win, because you remove yourself from situations where you are not appreciated and make room for something better. Many people fear stepping back because they worry they'll be forgotten. But the truth is, the right person won't forget you. They will notice, they will miss you. And if they truly see your value, they will step up. And if they don't, that's your sign to keep moving forward without looking back. When you choose yourself, the people who are meant for you will choose you too, not out of convenience, but out of genuine love and respect. So disappearing isn't about making him beg for you. It's about making space for the right kind of love. It's about understanding that your worth isn't tied to how much you give or how available you are. It's about knowing that when you step back, the right one will step forward. And if he doesn't, you've already won because you're no longer wasting time where you're not valued. In relationships, one of the most common mistakes people make is overgiving and overpursuing. It often comes from a place of deep love and care, but too much of anything, even kindness and affection, can create imbalance. When one person constantly gives while the other simply receives, the dynamic shifts, and what should be a mutual connection turns into a one-sided effort. The more you chase, the less the other person feels the need to step up. The more you overextend, the less effort they have to put in. And eventually, without even realizing it, you end up feeling exhausted, unappreciated, and even resentful. Many people overgive because they believe it will make them more valuable in the other person's eyes. They think that by doing more, being available at all times, and proving their loyalty, they will earn love in return. But love doesn't work that way. Love isn't something you have to prove. It's something that should flow naturally between two people. If you find yourself always initiating, always making sacrifices, and always being the one to fix problems, it's time to step back and reevaluate. Over pursuing can also come from fear, the fear of losing someone, the fear of not being enough, or even the fear of being alone. This fear drives people to cling harder, to check in constantly, to adjust their lives to fit someone else's, and to give without limits. But what this really does is push the other person away. It removes the space needed for them to choose you willingly. People don't value what they don't have to work for, and they certainly don't appreciate what is handed to them without effort. The key is to find balance. Love should be reciprocal. It should be about mutual effort, mutual respect, and mutual investment. If you're always the one giving, planning, and making things work, take a step back. See what happens when you stop initiating, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop trying to hold everything together on your own. If the other person truly values you, they will notice. They will step up. They will make the effort to meet you halfway. And if they don't, that's your answer. Letting go of overgiving doesn't mean becoming distant or cold. It means recognizing your worth and understanding that you deserve effort in return. It means allowing space for the other person to show you how much they care rather than constantly proving how much you do. When you stop over pursuing, you shift the power back to balance. You allow yourself to be in a relationship where you are loved, appreciated, and chosen not because you forced it, but because it was freely given. So instead of overgiving, start receiving. Instead of over pursuing, allow yourself to be pursued. The right person will not need to be convinced of your worth. They will see it, appreciate it, and make sure you feel just as valued as you make them feel. Life changes the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you happiness and start creating it for yourself. Too often, people get stuck in the cycle of centering their joy, identity, and purpose around another person, especially in relationships. They invest all their energy into making someone else happy, believing that if they give enough, love enough, and are worth enough, they will be rewarded with commitment and security. But the reality is, no one can give you the happiness, peace, and fulfillment that only you can create for yourself. Focusing on your growth and happiness isn't about neglecting love or relationships. It's about building a life so fulfilling that whether someone stays or goes, you remain whole. It's about becoming a version of yourself that doesn't rely on another person to feel complete. Because when you pour into yourself, you become magnetic not just to others, but to the opportunities, love, and abundance that are truly meant for you. When you disappear from a dynamic where you were overextending yourself and shift your attention inward, incredible things happen. You start prioritizing your own well-being. You begin to see what truly makes you happy outside of a relationship. You develop new skills, invest in your passions, and build the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you are enough on your own. This shift changes everything, not just in how you see yourself, but in how others see you as well. Confidence and self-sufficiency are attractive qualities. When you stop waiting for validation from another person and start building a life that excites you, people take notice. Instead of being someone who is always available, always seeking approval, always bending to fit into someone else's life, you become the person who stands firmly in your own power. And when you do that, the right person will not only be drawn to you, but they will respect and appreciate you in ways they never did before. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you stop caring about love. It means you stop chasing it. It means you no longer base your happiness on whether someone texts you back, gives you attention, or acknowledges your worth. Instead, you fill your own cup first. You travel, you learn, you grow, you surround yourself with people who uplift you, and you create moments that make you feel alive. And in doing so, you radiate a kind of energy that cannot be ignored. The moment you prioritize your own happiness, you shift the entire dynamic of any relationship. Instead of clinging, you allow space. Instead of overgiving, you receive. Instead of waiting for someone else to make you happy, you create joy on your own. And when that happens, the people who truly see your worth will step up. They will realize that your presence is a gift, not something they can take for granted. They will understand that to be in your life, they have to bring value, effort, and commitment. And if they don't, you won't be bothered because you will have already built a life so fulfilling that their absence does not shake your foundation. You will know that the right person will match your energy, not drain it. You will understand that real love does not require you to abandon yourself. So, disappear from anything that makes you feel less than. Walk away from anything that demands you shrink to fit. And shift all that energy into becoming the best version of yourself. When you do the right things and the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. And not because you chase them, but because you chose yourself first. When someone has constant access to you, they may not fully appreciate your presence. It's a natural human tendency to take for granted what feels secure, predictable, and always within reach. This is why stepping back and creating space is one of the most powerful things you can do in any relationship. It forces the other person to recognize what life is like without you, and if they truly value you, they will feel the weight of your absence and take action. Many people fear pulling away because they think it will cause the other person to lose interest or move on. But the truth is, when someone genuinely cares about you, they won't let you go so easily. They will notice when your good morning texts stop, when your constant check-ins disappear, and when the effort you used to put into the relationship fades. And when they feel that void, they will have to ask themselves a crucial question: am I willing to lose this person? This is where the power dynamic shifts. When you are always available, always initiating, and always giving, the other person has no urgency to step up. They know they have you. But when you pull back, they are forced to make a decision. They either realize your worth and make an effort to keep you in their life, or they let you go, which tells you everything you need to know about where they stand. Either way, you win. The key here is to detach from the outcome. You're not disappearing as a manipulation tactic to get someone to chase you. You're stepping back because you refuse to be in a one-sided relationship where your presence is taken for granted. You're choosing yourself, your peace, and your self-respect. And when you do that, the right person will rise to meet you. It's important to understand that people value what they have to work for. This doesn't mean playing mind games or making someone struggle unnecessarily. It simply means that when someone has to put in effort, they develop a deeper appreciation for what they have. Think about it when you work hard for something, whether it's a job, a degree, or a personal achievement. You cherish it more than if it were just handed to you. The same principle applies in relationships. When a person realizes that they could actually lose you, they begin to reflect on what you bring into their life. They remember the support, the laughter, the love, and the energy you contributed. They start to feel the absence of your presence, and that realization can be a powerful motivator. The fear of loss often makes people take action in ways that comfort never does. But here's the most important part. You are not doing this to make someone beg for you. You are doing this to see if they truly value you. If someone is willing to let you walk away without a second thought, then they were never fully invested to begin with. And that's painful, but it's also liberating, because it frees you from wasting time on someone who isn't meant for you. On the other hand, if they do value you, they will step up. They will call, text, and put in the effort to show you that they care. They will make it clear that they don't want to lose you, not because they are afraid of being alone, but because they genuinely see your worth and want to be a part of your life. This is why disappearing, when done from a place of self-respect rather than manipulation, is so powerful. It weeds out the people who are only there out of convenience and strengthens the bond with those who truly cherish you. It allows you to shift from a position of seeking validation to one of recognizing your own value. So, if you ever feel like you're giving too much and not receiving the same effort in return, take a step back. Let them feel your absence. Give them the space to decide what they really want. And if they come back with real effort and commitment, you'll know they truly appreciate you. If they don't, you'll know it's time to move forward without looking back. Either way, you will have chosen yourself, and that is always the right decision. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful tools you can develop in relationships and in life. It doesn't mean you stop caring or become indifferent. Rather, it means you stop depending on someone else's actions, words, or presence to determine your happiness and self-worth. When you master emotional detachment, you gain control over your own emotions instead of allowing someone else to dictate how you feel. And in relationships, this shift in power can be transformative. Many people enter relationships with a deep emotional investment from the very beginning. They attach their happiness, self-esteem, and sense of security to the other person. They crave validation from their partner, constantly seeking reassurance, attention, and love. But what happens when that validation isn't given in the way they expect? They feel anxious, insecure, and uncertain. Their mood depends on how much attention they're receiving. And in this state, they often overcompensate, texting more, giving more, chasing more, all in an effort to regain the sense of security they've lost. But the problem is, This kind of emotional attachment creates an imbalance. When you rely too heavily on someone else for emotional stability, you give them all the power in the relationship. The other person begins to feel that they don't need to put in as much effort because they know you are always available, always waiting, always willing to do whatever it takes to keep them. And ironically, the more you cling emotionally, the more likely they are to pull away. This is why emotional detachment is so powerful. It shifts the dynamic. Instead of reacting to every small change in their behavior, you remain steady, calm, and in control of your emotions. You no longer feel the need to over-explain, overgive, or prove your worth. You don't chase because you understand that the right person won't need to be chased. You don't beg for attention because you know that your value isn't determined by how much someone acknowledges you. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or caring. It means you love from a place of strength, not fear. It means you enjoy the relationship but understand that your happiness isn't dependent on it. If someone values you, they will show it through their actions, and if they don't, you won't waste time trying to convince them. You remain open to love, but you are not desperate for it. You give, but only to the extent that it is being reciprocated. The beauty of emotional detachment is that it also makes you incredibly attractive. Confidence and independence are magnetic qualities. When you are emotionally detached, you radiate self-sufficiency. You don't seek approval, and you don't need constant validation, which naturally draws people in. They become intrigued by your ability to remain composed and unbothered. They start to wonder why you're not affected by their distance, why you don't react emotionally to every small shift in behavior. And in many cases, they begin to pursue you more, because now they feel the uncertainty of not fully having you. But here's the most important part. Detachment isn't a game. It's not about pretending not to care to manipulate someone into chasing you. It's about genuinely developing the mindset that you are whole on your own. It's about knowing that your life is fulfilling whether or not a particular person chooses to be a part of it. It's about having the self-respect to walk away from situations where you are not valued rather than clinging out of fear of losing someone. So how do you develop emotional detachment? It starts with shifting your focus inward. Instead of obsessing over how someone else feels about you, redirect that energy into yourself. Build a life that makes you happy outside of any relationship. Strengthen your friendships. Pursue your passions. Focus on your personal growth. The more fulfilled you are on your own, the less power any one person has over your emotions. It also requires mindfulness. Pay attention to how you react in relationships. If you feel anxious or desperate when someone pulls away, ask yourself why. Are you seeking validation? Are you afraid of abandonment? Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking them. When you catch yourself attaching too much importance to someone else's actions, take a step back. Remind yourself that their behavior does not define you. At the end of the day, emotional detachment is about balance. It's about being open to love without losing yourself in it. It's about giving without overextending, caring without clinging, and loving without losing your sense of self. When you master this mindset, you no longer fear losing anyone because you know that no matter what happens, you will always have yourself. And that kind of inner strength, it's priceless. When you choose yourself, everything changes. It sounds simple, but in reality, it's one of the hardest yet most powerful things you can do. Many people go through life seeking external validation, wanting to be chosen, loved, and prioritized by someone else. They invest so much energy into proving their worth, being the perfect partner, and making sacrifices just to be seen. But the real transformation happens when you shift your focus inward and decide that you are the most important person in your life. Choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting love or pushing people away. It means refusing to settle for less than what you deserve. It means setting boundaries and sticking to them. It means recognizing that your happiness, growth, and well-being come first. And when you embrace this mindset, the right people will rise to meet you, and the wrong ones will naturally fall away. Many people stay in situations where they are not fully valued because they fear being alone. They cling to relationships that drain them, hoping that if they just try harder, love harder, and give more, things will change. But love should not require you to abandon yourself. The moment you start compromising your self-respect, self-worth, and happiness just to keep someone in your life, you've already lost the most important relationship, the one with yourself. The truth is, people respect those who respect themselves. When you continuously allow someone to treat you poorly, they lose respect for you, even if they don't realize it. But when you walk away from situations that don't align with your worth, you send a powerful message not just to others, but to yourself. You reinforce the belief that you are enough, that you deserve more, and that you refuse to accept anything less. Choosing yourself also shifts the power dynamic in relationships. When you are constantly available, adjusting your needs to fit someone else's and making them the center of your world, you put them in control. But when you prioritize yourself, when you focus on your goals, passions, and happiness, you reclaim that power. You become someone who doesn't need to be chosen because you have already chosen yourself. And that kind of confidence is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are self-assured, independent, and whole on their own. When you stop chasing, stop begging for attention, and stop overgiving, you naturally attract better connections. You no longer waste time on people who don't see your worth because you don't feel the need to convince them. You know that the right person will recognize your value without you having to prove it. But choosing yourself isn't just about relationships, it applies to every aspect of life. It means setting boundaries at work and not allowing others to take advantage of you. It means prioritizing your mental and physical health. It means removing yourself from toxic environments and people who drain your energy. It means knowing when to walk away, even when it's difficult, because you trust that better things are ahead. The beauty of choosing yourself is that it creates a ripple effect. When you start prioritizing your well-being, your confidence grows. You become more intentional about the people and situations you allow into your life. You stop settling, and as a result, you begin attracting the kind of love, friendships, and opportunities that truly align with you. And the most powerful realization? When you choose yourself, you never really lose. If someone steps up and meets you at your level, you gain a healthy, fulfilling connection. If they don't, you gain the freedom to find something better. Either way, you win. So stop waiting for someone to choose you. Stop giving all your energy to people who don't appreciate it. Stop settling for situations that leave you feeling drained and unfulfilled. Instead, choose yourself. Invest in your happiness, set your standards high, and trust that the right people will meet you where you are. Because the moment you choose yourself, the world begins to reflect that choice back to you in the most beautiful ways.